What's up, guys, and welcome to another Trailblazer upload. And today we're actually going to discuss the final relic analysis. The tier 5 analysis video did really well, and some people were interested in to see what my thought process was for the tier 6, so that's what we're going to go over today. I'm currently at about 10,000 points with really a lot less time played than I would have liked. But as I've mentioned in plenty of other videos, this is more of a marathon, not a sprint. It's all about what you finish with, not how you start. And I definitely plan to finish with quite a high amount of points. But regardless of that, we are doing a progress series and streaming on Twitch. So if you're interested in either of those, check the description down below for either the Twitch link or the link to my Trailblazer playlist. But without further ado, let's go ahead and jump straight into it. We have 3 tier 6s. The first one is Draining Strikes, and these are all going to be combat tier oriented relics. I'm sure there are plenty of people who have already chosen their tier 6, but there are even more who have not yet reached there. And I'm not going to read the first line because this is going to go across all 3 of them, and that is all of your attacks have 10% increased accuracy and 10% increased damage. This is effective for all 3 of the tier 6 relics, but everything below is unique to each individual one. And for this Draining Strikes, whenever one of your attacks successfully hits, there's a 50% chance that you will restore hit points and prayer by 10% of the damage dealt. And this relic does not work for multi-combat attacks or special attacks. Therefore, it doesn't work with like throwing chins, bursting, or using like an SGS spec. And this relic's effect will also only work for the initial hit of the Scythe of Vitcher, not all 3 of them. And my personal thought process with this relic is if you're more of an AFK player, this is the tier 6 relic for you. Or maybe not even AFK specifically, but if you're a player that doesn't like to click a whole lot, this might be your relic if you want to do some bossing, while also not having to worry about doing special attacks or flicking prayers or things like that. It might even be of great help if you're new to some bosses by using it to help you be a little tankier. But honestly, I feel like this relic is pretty cut and dry. It's going to allow you to have a lot longer trips by just offering you a passive heal and a passive increase to your prayer points without having to really make any extra effort whatsoever. Now moving on to the next tier 6, and this one is Exploding Attacks. And honestly, in my decision, this is one I considered, and I probably would have went with if there was points offered up for 200 mils in skills throughout this league, because I probably would have went after 200 mil in every combat skill with this relic. But what this relic does is whenever one of your attacks successfully hits, up to 5 additional targets next to your opponent will also be hit. And this damage to these additional targets is 100% of the initial damage. And if you are fighting a bunch in multi-combat, this relic is absolutely insane. For example, say you have 6 targets near your initial target you're currently attacking. When you hit one, all 5 of the other targets near it will literally get hit the exact same hit. So if you hit a 15, every single monster around him gets hit a 15. Once again, though, this relic does not work with multi-target attacks, which completely makes sense because if you tried to throw a chin and it hit everything around it, you would probably crash your game. And the relic will only work in multi-way combat areas. And it also doesn't work with the Scythe, which completely makes sense as well, because the Scythe already has like a kind of AoE effect itself. But as I mentioned earlier, I honestly heavily considered choosing this relic. And that's because in certain instances, this relic can far and away be the best in the tier 6 category, depending on the types of content you're going to be doing. You can literally get chinning XP by just flicking a whip in a multi-combat area like Ape Atoll tunnels or Monkey Madness 2 tunnels, getting multiple mil XP an hour in this league. Now, I'm not 100% on all of the multi-combat areas throughout the game that this will be effective on, or even all of the Slayer tasks that are accessible that you can choose to take advantage of this relic. But I know a few great areas could be like God Wars getting kill count. You could whip like 3 goblins at once just by them walking beside each other. I know the Waterbirth Island dungeon or even Under the Lighthouse, both of those Dagonoth places are multi-combat, and if that's a Slayer task you can choose, this would result in some absolutely insane Slayer XP. Another area this could result in insane Slayer XP, and I'm sure this is a pickable task, is cow fights. All of the cow fights out there in the desert are multi-combat, and this would equate to some absolutely nutty Slayer XP an hour using this relic. I don't know, there's plenty of different ways this relic can be absolutely insane, but there's also some cons in the fact that it can only be used in multi, and that's the only time you can take advantage of it. Maybe there's even implications where you can use it in the fight caves or Inferno. I'm not 100% familiar with either of them, but I'm sure there's some instances where attacking both of things at once could save you quite a bit of time. And I forgot to mention, but one big con of the initial relic of Draining Strikes is that at the peak of its power, I would say it's the most underwhelming in comparison to Exploding Attacks and Weapon Specialist. It can be very good, but in terms of total potential, I would say it's the worst out of these three relics. But now moving on to the final one, and that is Weapon Specialist, which is the relic I will be choosing once I hit 15,000 points. And what this relic does is every 30 seconds, your special attack energy restores 30% rather than 10%, and special attacks that would normally have energy cost greater than 20% will only cost 20 instead. And personally, I think this relic is overall the best in terms of being able to use it in the most places. And what I mean by that is there's so many different ways you can take advantage of this relic. Personally, I know one major reason I'm going to be picking it is the fact that I have Asgarnia and I can unlock God Swords. Having the ability to BGS spec something 5 times or SGS spec something 5 times, I feel like I can basically take the entire effect of the first relic by being able to constantly SGS spec, but then also have the ability to do something that neither of the other two relics can do, and BGS spec a boss basically to no defense, and then kill it normally and continuously repeat that process because my special attack energy would be replenishing so fast. So that will be the relic that I choose, because as I've mentioned in plenty of other videos, I'm going to be doing a PVM focused path, and I feel like this relic is going to come incredibly handy at fighting almost every boss throughout all of RuneScape. And what I would consider the biggest con of this relic is the fact that it's only valuable using the special attack. If a weapon doesn't have a special attack, or if maybe you're a little tired one day and you don't feel like spamming out a bunch of special attacks constantly, then this relic is kind of useless. It's going to be much more click intensive than either of the other two tier 6 relics, and that could be a major con to some players who don't want to constantly click and worry about whether they're most effectively using the special attack benefit they do have. But I don't want to ramble too much, and I feel like I offered enough information on each relic and some analysis that could potentially help you get over the hump and make that decision on which tier 6 you're going to pick if you are kind of on the fence. I know a lot of people commented about the tier 5 video that they were kind of on the fence, and the video helped them decide which one was really better for them. I hope that's the same case with this video. If you guys did enjoy, consider dropping a like or subscribing to the channel. Both massively help me out. Thank you guys so much for all of the support recently. You guys have been absolutely insanely generous with how much support you've shown each video. So thank you guys so much for that. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope I see you guys in a future upload or stream. Peace.